Hey everybody, I am in Longview, Washington today, down in Southwest Washington, and we are going to tell you the pros and cons about living in the Longview and Kelso area, so stay tuned. Hey everybody, my name is Andrea Vincent and I'm with the Pine to Sea team with Realty One Group Pacifica in Southwest Washington. Aaron and I absolutely love getting phone calls from all over the United States from people looking to relocate down here to Southwest Washington. So if you're looking to move here, you can give us a call, send us a text, shoot us an email, and if you're like my dear old grandmother, you can still handwrite a letter and stick it in the mail. So today, I'm with Brad Whitaker. He is the owner of Realty One Group Pacifica down here in Southwest Washington. We have an office in Longview and we have an office in Long Beach. And we're gonna tell you the pros and cons of living in Longview, Kelso area. So we'll start with a few of the cons about living here in this area. What do you think are the major concerns with folks living here?
So from a real estate perspective, we've been a blue collar community for a long time, and with that, we've had kind of limited people wanting to get involved in making the town a better place for teenagers. And so, Rotary and Lions Club, they've made a couple of skate parks and that kind of stuff. But as far as, activities and places for teenagers to go, kind of limited so far. So most of the people who are like managers at one of the mills or that kind of job, they will buy further to our south and they'll commute into town.
Gotcha.
We lack some of the big box stores. We don't have
Costco.
Yeah, we don't have a Costco and we don't have a Macy's, and there's certain shops that we don't have here that they have in bigger centers. And so that tends to be a complaint from the consumer side and from the parent side. And our schools have in the past they've struggled a little bit, but they've really made some pretty amazing strides over the last probably decade.
Nice.
Right. So that's I would say probably one of the first cons that we deal with on a regular basis, because people are wanting to move into the area, but the first thing they check is what are the grades for the schools? What do my kids have to do if I'm at work, and where does my wife shop? And or
where do the teenagers work? Or
exactly. So that's probably the first con.
So I think one of the other cons, and you would notice it even just driving through the south side of the town by the industrial section, even with your windows rolled up, is we have lumber mills. How many do we have?
Oh, multiple. Yeah, probably 3 or 4 down to the port.
And so you get a little, I don't even know how you'd explain it.
Well, here they call it the smell of money. The rest of us call it wood bleach. And it's the chemical they use to soften the wood into fibers so that it can be turned into paper. We have one mill that grinds it into basically powder, and that is a major energy user. And then we have some that use chemicals to pull the wood fibers apart and turn them into paper. So it just kind of depends on the product that the mill produces as to what they do to make the paper. But that smell, depending on what time of year, in the winter, when the wind blows a certain direction, town gets the smell a whole lot more. There's probably, I would say less than 30 days a year where the wind's blowing this way, where you're really getting inundated with the smell. But it does show up in those 30 days. So you have to understand what it is and realize that it comes and goes based on the wind patterns, and it's a humongous employer in our town. So a lot of people put up with what they get.
And it's timber here, in Southwest Washington as a whole is a giant industry. Logging, people building logging roads, mills. The
we
transport.
export a lot of trees.
Yeah, so, on the other side of that is a huge positive as far as our economy goes. And it kind of depends on where you live too. There's, the closer you are, obviously, the stronger it is. But like you said, most time you don't notice it unless that wind's blowing right.
Yeah, the good part is that the mills are all right on the river because they need the water and in the deep port access. And the wind really whistles down the Columbia River. And so typically it gets taken upstream or downstream with the wind flow. So it doesn't hit town too often, but when it does, you definitely know the mills are working.
Yes, you do. So our third, con for parts of the city, the older parts of the city, is concern over water and water source.
Yeah, so the cities in the last several years, they have drilled new wells, and those wells were drilled at a place that it's an industrial park called the Mint Farm, and some of the source of that water is kind of heavy silica, and so a lot of the old west side, a lot of the parts of town that are kind of the original parts of town have plumbing in them that's really old, and when the city started pushing the water from these new wells into almost 100-year-old plumbing, there were some chemical reactions that created some pretty disastrous results.
Yeah.
Some people who had older appliances, they were absolutely ruined because once the water dries in place, the silica shows up and it grabs a hold of the surface and it doesn't disappear.
Right.
So if you've got glass doors on your shower, if you don't squeegee those at the end of the day, you'll have those water spots, and it's not a water spot that you can get rid of without acid etching.
Yeah.
And even that, it never gets it completely clean. So we just have to be, kind of aware and make sure that, if you've got stainless steel or you've got something that's not chrome, any type of a satin finish, you need to wipe it down at the end of whenever you're using it, or you'll come back the next day and you'll have spots.
Either way.
Yeah. The nice thing about it is that the silica, our bodies can't process it, so it just passes right through. So it doesn't do damage. It's not like it's a caustic chemical that's a problem for the water. Really, it's more of a pain in the keister.
An annoyance.
Yeah, for what it does to the look of your taps and faucets and appliances.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, and don't wash your cars with that water and then just let them dry.
Oh.
Yeah.
Bad deal.
Yeah. So our
we do have a great car wash in town, though.
Yes,
automatic car wash.
Our auto car washes are very busy here because they blow it off and dry it off pretty well.
So on the other side of things, pros, this is just an awesome place to live. Southwest Washington as a whole, Longview, Kelso. We are about 30 minutes away from the Portland airport. So you're still small city community living, yet you have access really close by, less than an hour, to Vancouver and Portland and those bigger cities. And I think that's a big plus for a lot of people.
For a lot of, we have a lot of outdoor enthusiasts here, obviously.
Definitely, yeah.
Right? So a lot of people love to hunt and fish. We've got 5 world-class salmon rivers that all dump into the Columbia. So we've got some of the best salmon fishing in the world here.
For sure.
And then, we've got Mount St. Helens, which is an hour away from Longview. We have the Oregon and Washington beaches, an hour and a half away. We've got Seattle 2 hours away, Portland an hour away. So we're kind of this central hub right on I-5 that gives us access to some of the most amazing places to go to, whether you love to go to, dinner and dancing in the city, or you want to get out and you want to stretch your legs and go hiking, or fishing, or whatever outdoor activity you like. Yeah, so and we've got lots of natural land around us, so if you're a hunting guy or a girl, definitely a place you want to come and check out.
Yeah, and along with that, we have I mentioned earlier, our timber industry is so huge here, and we have so many timber company property and land, and a lot of them will allow you access to hike on them, to mushroom pick, to hunt on them. And so, along with DNR, state lands, fish and wildlife lands, the timber company lands are another great access point. So, we have just a lot of outdoor activities, and it's just not to mention it's just gorgeous here. I think kind of to go along with maybe one of the cons is a lot of people are like, oh, it always rains here. But, I would say we get more rain in the wintertime, but also if you look around, our stuff is always green. So with that rain comes absolute beauty, greenery everywhere. It's just an amazing place to be and to live.
Yeah, with the rain comes plenty of water year round.
Definitely.
We don't deal with the rolling brownouts, blackouts. Power shortage is never an issue here because we've got a lot of actually pretty much clean, renewable energy being produced all the time, because as the water flows to the ocean, it's generating power for us all the time here.
Yep.
So we've got very low utility rates here compared to other places.
Definitely.
There isn't smokestacks, belching stuff into the sky. It's been an amazing place to see. And even the difference in Oregon versus Washington, our buyers here, the power buyer for example, Cowlitz PUD, I don't know who this person is, but man, can they buy power cheap. You go right across the river to a place called Vernonia, and Puget Sound Energy has the power over there, and it's almost 3 times what we pay here.
Right.
So I mean, you can get into a certain part of the world that is really inexpensive to buy a house, but you get your utility bill and it's $300, $400, $500 a month. You're like, well, all of a sudden that monthly payment got pretty big.
Yeah, and along with that power bill, we don't have the extremes that a lot of places do. We don't have those 100+ temps. We don't have the below zeros. So you're not having to run your AC all summer and winter in times. I've lived in Texas and have been there. And I've lived in North Idaho, where you have to constantly run the heaters and run the power bill, shovel snow. So it's just a really happy medium here. We don't have those extreme temperatures. So that also helps your energy bills as well.
Yeah, we have our 1 week where we'll be in the hundreds. Last year didn't even hit.
Right.
We didn't even get into a solid week of it. But yeah, it's we typically have beautiful, warm, pleasant falls here. Spring can be kind of wet. Sometimes it'll rain all the way up to the 4th of July, and then poof, all of a sudden summer shows up, and it stays all the way in through October, November. Right. So we have some very temperate weather. Yeah, for sure.
And even in the summertime too, when you get those hot days, we still tend to cool down at night here. So opening your windows and letting that cool air in, it's not like it stays hot and humid here, throughout the entire night. So it's pretty nice and temperate.
Well, and we're close enough to the ocean.
Yeah.
That marine layer rolls in and cools everything down.
Absolutely.
And it's nice with the river and the ocean. We get a lot of breeze. I don't know, on this video you can probably see the trees moving around. It's just pleasant out. And so we get that a lot. But when you've got as much agriculture or river waterway around you, there's always somewhere to cool off.
Definitely. Yeah. So another great pro about Longview Kelso is a lot of people ask, well, what is the community like? What are the people like? How am I going to kind of fit in? And there's a lot of great, it's not your big giant city. You get a lot of small tight-knit community stuff, kind of neighbors helping neighbors thing here.
Yeah, for sure. When I first moved into the area, I got on the board for the United Way, and I didn't realize the amount of need in the community. My wife was a principal of one of the elementary schools here, and that school just happened to be 98% free and reduced lunch, meaning all of 98% of the parents were on welfare for whatever reason. And so when you've got 2 schools or 3 elementary schools, and those schools, they serve breakfast and lunch for the kids, and sometimes those are the only 2 meals those kids get.
Yeah.
So what do you do on weekends? What do you do all summer? And so we've got nonprofit entities that raise money for backpacks and food, and we absolutely have an army of people in our communities that love everybody.
Right.
And they want to see everybody thrive.
Yeah.
They don't want to see kids go hungry. They don't want to see kids living under bridges.
Right.
You know, we've got some nonprofits in town that do amazing things. And you don't realize what is here until you get on a board like that and they serve 27 different entities or 30 different entities. And they all do amazing things in town. Women's shelters, homeless shelters. We've got, you know, groups that create or get food packages together for the homeless. We've had some homeless issues in the last several months here in town. And it's been a struggle to try and figure out how do you get them housing, and then there's a certain group or a certain part of that group that don't want the help.
The help, right?
Right.
Yeah.
They just would rather live on the streets
Absolutely.
because that's where they're comfortable.
Yep.
And there's, you know, and so for those who want the help, there's help there. For those who don't want the help there, they tend to stay on the streets, and sometimes it can cause problems, and sometimes, you know, you don't even know they're there because they're all just kind of hidey-holed away. But
right.
It's, I think, part of our temperate climate is one of those things that helps here.
Yeah.
You know, there's that, we get about as much freezing weather as we do 100-degree weather.
Right, right.
So it's just one of those things where we've got enough people in our community that care about all kinds of people that there's always an entity out there trying to provide something for someone's needs.
Yeah. And speaking of, our Longview office, Realty One Group Pacifica, does a lot for the community too. Realty One Group, excuse me, as a whole, you know, mission is giving back. And so May Day is coming up, and that's always our day to give back to the community. And we've done other things. Was it the backpacks that you guys did, or the so we did for the kids transitioning, or the coming out
kids that get pulled out of the house due to some type of criminal activity or mistreatment.
Right.
It's Luggage of Love. We did a fundraiser for and it's one of those things that it's traumatizing for the kids, but once as an adult, once you realize that actually happens to kids, it's just heartbreaking.
It is.
So we do what we can to make sure that we support and take care of those who are most vulnerable.
Right. So those are the basic pros and cons of Longview and Kelso area. There's so much more to our area, so much more. This video could go on for hours about all the cool things that we have. So if you'd like more information, or if you're thinking about moving here, you can call us, email us, text us, any way that you'd like to get a hold of us, and we would love to help you out.
Absolutely.